But when we signed this, it was a decision of trends, of trying to innovate inside the industry, especially in Europe. So when we see, as I already told, what's coming up in China and so on, we don't to have lose time.
No, because you can't get it back. But it's so interesting when you say you can never be sure. But I mean, pretty often with the majority of people in foundries and founder organization, if they're not sure, if there's no nomination, there's no investment, there's no hours put into anything. They're like hair cutters. They stand there with a scissor. You walk in and you say, okay, now today I want this haircut or this color of my hair. Yeah, I don't have any hair, but I guess other people do. These are, if you ask me, like 70% of the foundry world. Hello and welcome to the Goldcasting podcast. Today we are going to address the issue and question how to be in the nirvana, meaning being the strategic development partner for many important customers out there. And as a matter of fact, we're very proud to have Mr. Andreas Würzer from company Handtmann with us, because you can see it from many perspectives, but Handtmann, at least for me, seems to have this position as the strategic partner for many things. And follow us through the episode, and we'll try to give you as much as possible and as much as Mr. Würzer can explain to us as well. So welcome, Andreas Würzer.
Thank you very much. So great to be here and to have the opportunity to talk to you during this podcast.
Yeah, you're warmly welcome.
Can you give us a short introduction of yourself so that our listeners and viewers know who you are?
Of course. My name, Andreas Würzer. I'm working now since 5 years for company Handtmann inside the light metal casting division of the Handtmann Group. I'm responsible here for the technical development. That means all the business development things, means the advanced engineering, innovation management, product management is located there. In addition, then the engineering of the serious parts, casting parts with all the simulations, all the design, and of course also the tool design. The third department in my division is the project management, where we handle all the serious industrialization projects for all our facilities worldwide. And my newest baby is 3D printing, additive manufacturing. So inside Handtmann, we implemented the last years some different kinds of 3D printing. And with the clear focus of fast prototypes.
Interesting. I guess that's filling the working day pretty well.
It's quite a wide range of things inside of the group.
I guess pretty many would be envy that work description. I mean, it sounds like a technical paradise if you're interested in new technologies.
Yeah, that's what I love very much, and that's one of the special things, that we have the opportunity to really live this technical life and have the opportunity to bring our ideas to reality. This is a great thing here.
Yeah, but you must be able to combine it somehow, because if you look at there are many techies there that make some investments and try new technologies. But if you look at the numbers, Handtmann has more or less the double turnover per capita than your colleagues in business in the same region. So it's one thing that you guys being techy and very open to new technology, but it must be some very, very good marketing and business development guys around it, and making sure that there's a return of investment in a reasonable long time as well.
Yeah. So the last years, Handtmann invested a lot inside this business development, where we do all the market researches as well, where we have a clear look on the product groups, on the market development, which kind of product groups we want to develop, where we need to invest in the future, what kind of processes, what kind of competences are needed, and which parts are on the way to our future.
That's so interesting. And especially when you're doing a market study, at first of view, that's just paper. But then taking the decision on, okay, let's put up the money, where we think the market will go, Has the family-owned situation something to do with that? Or is there a certain way of taking decisions within your company culture?
I think, yeah, that's it. That it is a family-owned business is one of the main things. We have very short decision making. That means if the strategy is clear, if what we have on our papers is clear, we can have a very fast decision. So it was as well for the Megacasting, for example. It was a very fast decision at the end that when we see what the future will bring up and if we want to position ourselves as a strategic partner during the development phase, and then, of course, over prototyping, over the mass production as a real full service partner, then we have to do these decisions and bring it to reality, really to push the market from our side. So we see a lot of companies waiting if someone takes over the responsibility to push something inside the industry. And I think one of our main points here is that we really want to be at the forefront of the development and try to push this.
But you are, let me put it this way. If I had the opportunity to work with pretty many gigacasting projects, and 80-90% of them are basically in Asia. And you're the only one. The working title, this script was actually the European Chinese, still European. But you have done this investment, I guess, from a holistic way and being very tight with your customers. But when you took it, you must have had some clue about the megacasting trend and where you think this is heading. So that is the question. What do you think about the megacasting trend? Where will it stop, and what is your take on it?
So we are just at the beginning of this trend. So I spent many time also in our plant in China, and I had the opportunity to visit a lot of car manufacturers over there. And when we see what's going on with this megacasting trend over there, they are already in the second or nearly the third step of the evolution. And in Europe, we are just at the beginning, the first step of the evolution. And when we see that this trend is coming up with all its opportunities, we don't have to lose much time. If we don't take this chance, we will lose this business to all these Chinese manufacturers. So for us, it's clear that in future, a lot of these mega castings will be in the cars for the future. That the body structures and so on, not only the body structures, but mainly this will have more and more mega castings inside that. And if we see, for example, cell to pack, cell to chassis concepts for future cars, there will be really big structures also, or not only for front underbody, rear underbody, but as well for the big battery structures. And if we have there more and more highly integrated solutions, then more and more we are integrated and take over some functional things inside the structure. The casting parts can take over these functions very well.
And I think also with these structures taking over different roles now in the vehicles, it's also then just guess now a different role for you. You're not just looking down what's on the portal, download the files. No, it's now the other way around. You're telling the OEMs, okay, to incorporate the battery in the best way, you have to build a system around like that. Is it that way? Is it that easy?
Right. It's not that easy, but it's the way we do it. So we are developing a lot of concepts. We are going to our customers and try to push our concepts to their engineering departments. So we want to give them the opportunity to use our knowledge, what we have, and to rethink their concepts they have. And I think you can imagine it's not that easy going to OEMs, to highly competent engineers, and tell them, okay, in the past you tried to do it with steel structures and so on, but now here we are from Handtmann and we say we have a better solution.
I used to say that then you need a hockey helmet and a big roll of cinnamon buns.
Yeah, and very often we see you really have to go deep into this concept developments. If you only have some vision on a paper, no one will listen to you.
When you say
Engineers,
go deep, do you mean you have casted the function, you have assembled it, you have tested it to some extent, you have gone outside your own box, maybe, I don't know, vibration, acoustics, whatever that could actually happen when you have a big structure. Yeah. So that is that is the lesson. I mean, you don't do a nice PowerPoint. You actually do castings.
Right. So we really take the design spaces, the loads for different parts. That means for chassis, for example, or in the body structure. We take over the loads and so on. And through the topology optimization, the calculation for that, we then go really fast into the design of the casting parts. Therefore, we also use some very fast technical solutions like subdivision modelings and so on to really bring the opportunity to customers to have, I call it, a real lightweight design. So that we really play with all the thicknesses of the areas. We also do all the filling and these kind of simulations during the early stage of the engineering process. We also go then into two prototypes that if we fulfill all the requirements for the customer on the validation side, on the digital validation side, then we decide to go into prototypes. From time to time, if it's already that interesting for a customer, he decides also to pay for such kind of prototype. But also we have many concept stages where Handtmann takes over responsibility and goes into the manufacturing of prototypes.
Interesting. So what I really like that just buying the machine is it seems like it's just a tip of the iceberg. There are so many things now you have to change or you have to rethink, like with your development process. If the parts get bigger, or we have to divide our simulations into smaller pieces to keep up, and then also be active in the development, think of ideas, and then validate them before anyone asks for them. How is it for your organization going?
Of course. So we also needed the competences for that. So we have now, for example, engineering guys, simulation guys, which we didn't have 3 or 4 years ago. So we built up really this advanced engineering department where we can handle this kind of engineering. And I think we are one of the few casting companies which have such engineering competences.
I think you're a little bit home blind now, Andreas. I need to clarify. When you say simulation, you don't need someone running magma back and forth for a part. You mean topology, strength, vibration, all these things,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, I just want to clarify it because you see it every day, and it's like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that means so magma simulations and flow 3D simulations, we are all familiar with that. And we do this.
That's Monday, then the rest of the week is something else.
So, but there are engineers needed. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that Bühler owns a part of my company, and they were a little bit surprised when the family of Handtmann went out to say, hey, by the way, we bought a big, freakishly big machine. And even Cornell Mender was a little bit of, did they really need to tell that? Because, you know, the paperwork, the ink didn't dry on the paper. So it sounded on the market that it was a little bit like hip shooting, you know. But it weren't, I guess. So how did you actually come up to the idea that, okay, let's push the bottom now and sign the paper for this Gigacasting machine in Germany?
Yeah, you cannot be sure 100% at the end. Yeah, that's very clear. And to be honest, when we signed this contract, there was no serious production already in-house. There was no customer telling us, okay, we have here parts for you, please start production. And then the decision could be more easy. But when we signed this, it was a decision of trends, of trying to innovate inside the industry, especially in Europe. So when we see, as I already told, what's coming up in China and so on, we don't lose time.
No, because you can't get it back. But it's so interesting when you say you can never be sure, but I mean, pretty often the majority of people in foundries and founder organization, if they're not sure, if there's no nomination, there's no investment, there's no hours put into anything. They're like hair cutters. They stand there with a scissor. You walk in and you say, okay, now today I want this haircut or this color of my hair. Yeah, I don't have any hair, but I guess other people do. These are, if you ask me, like 70% of the foundry world.
So we spend a lot of time to really understand the market, to really understand what are our products, where do we have our chances, or where do we lose business. And we analyze quite well which are the really growing product groups and what are the losing product groups. And also we go very deep inside that we have a look on what's happening with the casting technologies inside these product groups. So will, for example, the gravity die casting lose the amount of material inside the car towards the HPDC, the high pressure die casting, and so on. And on that basis, we try to find our way to see, okay, what technology in what product group. And for example, here, when we go to the body structure, all the body in white, this is one of the biggest growing product groups in the automotive industry for HPDC. This is very clear.
Yeah, but there's so many companies investing. I mean, what do you have? 120 contracts out there for large machines, half of them not in production. Do you think there's an over-investment, and will these investments actually pay back, or will we see a bunch of non-used second-hand machines out in the market in 2027?
So in China, of course, we see that. There are so many machines also at tier one suppliers as well as at the OEM. But a lot of these machines are not in use currently. So this is one of the points where we also think about how will we bring our facility in Tianjin further? Will it be also a bigger machine class or not? And for example, if we see this amount of machines in China, there will be no way for us with mega castings over there.
Be a prize rally.
Yeah, but in Europe, so if you're the first one, you can position yourself there. And if we see currently, or let me think about the last 2 years, nearly every car manufacturer in Europe or Germany, we have contracts, we have development projects running. Nearly everyone is asking to support. And yeah, that's one of the things where we can get closer to the OEMs with our future to really be this engineering partner and to support the OEMs to have, of course, engineering prototyping also on this first machine. So they can rethink their decisions. Is it possible to go and to invest in this bigger machines or not?
But everything is so fast in China. Do you see a difference between brownfield and greenfield, legacy, non-legacy producers, if I might say it as well?
Of course. I think, in my point of view, that's one of the main reasons why in Europe and in Germany we are so slow with these decisions to go into mega casting. Because all the OEMs, they are all kept into the brownfield. So that's the main reason why the Chinese, they can build their plants greenfield from scratch. They can really decide what technology they want to use.
I think it's way easier if you have a new production plant on a green area and then place everything around it. It's something different if you have a built-up supply chain, and if you have a stamping plant, you just don't hang a "now it's closed, we now do mega casting" sign on the door and walk away.
Yeah,
you still want to use it for something.
Yeah, and in the brownfield there is so a lot of money invested, and that's the reason why it will be slower in Germany and in Europe. I think it's coming. Of course, it's coming, but slower. It takes a few platforms further, And then we will see, okay, brownfield will close some other older technologies and megacasting will take over that.
Mm. But when I speak with some people, I get a feeling that they say, hey, we have a rear underbody, we're done. And then I used to say, well, that's a starting point. You're probably going to do R&D for the next 15 years on lightweighting, thinner walls, better alloys, etc. What do you see the challenges and solutions for the next 10 years in megacasting?
Yeah, of course. So it's not only the design of the parts. It's, of course, the process behind that, the material development behind that. Also, we spend here at Handtmann a lot of efforts towards process development and material development for that. And as I said at the beginning, we are just at the first evolution step. And what technology in the world was already done in the first evolution step?
None.
Nothing.
No.
None. Yeah. So I don't want to talk about, is it really the right way with these mega castings? I think we should say it's the first step. We see the opportunities and talk about the chances, not only about the risk we have inside this technology. So as we see in the past or see in other technologies, let's go further to the second, third evolution step, and then we will come to a point where we really take over the older technology.
Yeah, but again, that's something what you're describing is not like, oh, we can have the perfect plan on paper, and then when we start, everything is set up. We just need to turn the key and the thing is running. Now, you've just, okay, we do the investment, and then you find so many small things. And how do you keep working on it? Because it's very easy to prove things are not working when you don't set them in the right environment. And these are these small things adding up.
Yeah, this is quite challenging. Of course, if you really go into this new technology and with these many things coming up during this developing process.
But isn't the elephant in the room, if we look at gigacastings, maybe I'm talking to the wrong customers, but productivity starts to be a key issue. There's been a lot of rear underbodies, the first one from Tesla, and then, yeah, rest is history, as they say. And what I'm hearing now is that people are saying that, process window, reliability, risk mitigation, knowing to get one part out every minute is back on track. And then the big solution is shop in shop. Okay, you get 5 meters to the assembly line, but you're still not promising to make one part every minute. So what's going to happen with this?
I think we will reach that goal. Perhaps not quite that minute, but I think some manufacturers are already at 70 seconds cycle time.
That's fast.
Yeah, that's very fast. I have seen a lot of productions in China, and it's working there. You can see it. They are all very proud of that. They let you in. They give you the opportunity to see all their processes in there. And if you can see that it's really working, of course we have to improve that. It's the wear of the molds, the temperatures inside these molds, the deviation of the parts at the end. There are so many topics in there, and you really have to decide if you want to go that way, to develop and push these developments.
Question is what alternative is. I heard from a car maker, he claimed that organization will shrink to an amount of almost 30 million euros per year. And then he was counting purchasing, quality, logistics, and all the support functions that you have for those 70 pieces of sheet metal that you is flying around the world and being welded together, and which is a small army of people doing. And of course you need people for a mega casting, but there are not that many. So he was seeing the overhead reduction and easier to actually do product development when you have a single piece to work with. I don't know if it's true, but sounds relevant. So can you stand beside and say we don't believe in mega casting? I mean, I don't think it's time for it now.
Yeah, I think there will be something like you mentioned. And on the other side, I think we will have more and more to spend in the engineering. So if we put 70 parts or over 100 parts in some cases together, you have more and more interfaces during the development phase, and you have to bring all these changes from these interfaces together. I think there will be more engineering in this phase, but at the end, during production, there will be less machines, of course, less buyers needed, less quality engineers needed, and so on.
Friend of mine is a global sales manager at ABB Robotics. He's not super happy about gigacastings every day. The old days you see like a wood of orange robots, welding and picking and placing and welding again. So I have to ask, because I happen to work with it. How do you look at semi-solid casting?
I like semi-solid casting. Of course, we have some different programs running at Handtmann, not only for Rio casting, but as well for semi-solid topics, because I want to use these advantages of the semi-solid for different kind of product groups we are focusing in future. And this is quite the same. We want to be at the forefront to really push these kind of processes, that we have an advantage against our competitors on the market. So that goes, for example, into the product groups like chassis parts, where we want to have technology substitution from low pressure die casting towards the HPDC. And this could be at the end done with a semi-solid process.
Would you recognize, if I make the description that we see in our work, that in the beginning people were looking at Rio casting and semi-solid because of the increased flow length, but then all of a sudden they changed it in the discussion from 10% of silicon down to 7% of silicon due to elongation. And then the number of companies working with us increased pretty much, and they started to speak about productivity. Meaning 100 degrees lower melt temperature, longer tool life, less problems in the shot sleeve, all these things. So you see what I'm saying, that we started with a flow length to fill the tool, which was big then. Now it's not big again. And then elongation started to be a problem, meaning the properties, because people realized T6 is not a good idea for rear underbody. And then now it's like, we don't get the things out of the machine. If we add a little bit of semi-solid, would that decreased temperature actually do something? Do you see any resemblance in what you're meeting around semi-solid?
Of course. So especially in these big mega castings, as you mentioned, flow length, less wear, less temperature, and so on. These are all these advantages I want to have inside the mega casting production. It's currently a vision. And of course, there are a lot of technology guys also in our company. They say, okay, don't be too fast with a lot of innovation things and to bring them together. But at the end, in a few years, I think we will have also semi-solid production together with the mega casting, and then we can handle all these flow lengths and so on.
Probably. Another topic, secondary alloys. The reason, I want to pick your brain on this, because when I work in Asia, it's not a problem. It's not a biggie. If I work in Japan, it's a little bit of a problem. If I go to Germany, then I meet people that says, "Oh no, it has to be like this," and then you cannot use a secondary. Basically, I mean, isn't it a must if you look on the 200 kilos in a car and you do a rear underbody, which is 40-50 kilos, and you do a battery tray, which is 50-60, and then you do the front, another 50. So you have 150 out of 200 kilos. I mean, if you don't start to use secondary alloys, then when should you do it? And how should we consume this big pile of crappy cars? So
you're completely right. So there's really the need for using secondary alloys, especially for these big parts, of course. So in our department of the material development, we also focus on how can we bring more and more amount of secondary materials inside these parts. How can we also influence the specifications there? And how can we bring it to we call it primary near alloy specification. We did a lot of investigations for that, also together with universities and so on. we also already presented the results of that. And I think in the future we will have the opportunity to have more ferrum inside the alloys, for example. And if we use then, of course, semi-solid processes, it's also easier to use the secondary alloys.
Yeah, it's way easier to use the semi-solid because then you don't have the big issues with the intermetallic phases as they are squished into global lights. But I would like to ask you something which will probably require you to get your glass bowl out and take a look into the future. When we reduce in a megacasting 70 pieces into one, we do have way more time to, or way more eyes on one part, develop it. What do you think are the trickle-down effects in the rest of the foundry industry? As for example, when you compare it to the world of the internet when it came out, end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, everything was overhyped. Then there was a point of realization, okay, putting up a telephone book on the internet is not $1 billion company. And then you start to use it, and now it's unthinkable to do something without the internet. And what do you think will be the parallels coming out of the megacasting trend?
I think megacasting parts will find its place inside the cars. But that doesn't mean that in future everything will be done with this kind of machines. Of course not. There are so many parts where we can also spend our efforts to development and to push the processes there. So I think, the complete industry has a clear focus on that because it's new. But it's not the only thing where the decision will be done, which foundry will be alive in the future or not. There are so many parts on smaller machine classes. And I think we in the foundry industry should not lose the focus on these product groups as well, and to see what developments we can do there. So there's not the need that for bigger machines at all, the casting companies in Germany and Europe. I don't think so.
I don't meant for the question more like, as you presented for the mega casting trend, you had to redo how you do your simulation, put up more efforts, more engineering into it. How will that impact the rest of the casting world, which is 98% of all the foundries don't use mega casting for their production? Will we see similar effects there? Or what other things do you think will trickle down into the rest of industry, like with the secondary alloys or with semi-solid?
I think one point is that all the OEMs start to listen to casting companies. That means they recognize, okay, there are really specialists, experts, and we can use this expert knowledge to really speed up our development process. Everybody is talking about China speed, and all the German OEMs now recognize, okay, we want to be as fast as China, even more faster. So what we can support them and what they recognize is, okay, if we use the knowledge from suppliers, we can speed up. And this is what perhaps can help also the other foundries as well. If Handtmann as a forefront of development and supplier of development can open that door as well.
Yeah, but that requires that founder actually takes a step to the side, analyze your organization, see what you actually can bring to the table, and then knock on the door to the OEM or do something. I mean, I used to say founders are so funny when it comes to marketing and sales. So when they are doing a campaign, what they actually do, at least here in Sweden, they pull the telephone a little bit closer to themselves while they're waiting for the call. That is the way they do a marketing campaign. And maybe if they're really, really onto it, they make a new brochure for the Eurogas. Still 300 parts in a shelf, still the same guys standing there, talking to the same guys they always talk to. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that the value that you are providing is nothing that you see in a brochure. It comes with a brand. It comes with years of knowledge and years of built up a relationship where people actually trust you. So this is why I was so interested in how you actually worked with your conceptual development into a real casting and not only PowerPoint. So hats off, guys. And you who are listening, rewind a little bit and listen from the beginning again. I think that is important. We used to say that the only naked lady we have in this industry is actually gigacasting, but there are so many more parts, and I think there's a revival of the casting industry as an industry, and it's growing. There's more investment and so forth. And someone young thinking about making a career in casting, what kind of advice would you give them?
Don't be afraid of this loud and heavy and in some kind of dirty environment we have from time to time. The casting industry is that innovative at the moment that casting will be there in the future, of course. We will see castings in every car in the future, more and more. We see castings not only in the automobile industry, we see it everywhere. So I think young people should focus on stable technologies which have to be available also in the future. And I think if we do more and more marketing as well for casting, they will recognize that it's really, really interesting and a high complex technology.
Especially see that it's not the same level of casting that it was 5,000 years ago when it was invented. That it's really, as we heard it today, trickling down in so many different fields to make a good casting. And I think, at least for me, it was also stumbling into a foundry. It was a big surprise how great it is working on it, as you can do so many different things. You're not tied to one topic. You just can do so many different things, or you have to do so many different things to get your one target into the goal.
Really, yeah, it's not only a mold closing and filling in the material. There's so much more technology inside this casting, and especially for engineers, it's really interesting.
And I get a feeling that we will see more and more specialists. I see the marriage between the simulation guys, the property guys, and the topology studies. I see the marriage between more cross-functional engineering, where you actually need to have one foot in casting. And I think this is thrilling. I think there's so many new career paths where you don't necessarily need to be standing around a machine for 15 years to have oil under your nails, as we say in Sweden, to be allowed into the sales office to look at the drawing. I think these days are over, because look at the magnitude of investments, look at the throughput of a megacasting machine. Miss one slot, you miss one car. One car is 25,000 euros. I mean, that's the value of a good engineering for you. Within 72 seconds, we just learned. So it's interesting now. For the first time in many years, I would say, it's turning to something positive and interesting. And then I have to ask, how do you recruit your people? I'm not applying for a job, believe me. I'm 55 years old, and you don't want to have me in your organization. But
of course, there are a lot of different ways to recruit our people. Of course, we have our own company students. So we spend a lot of time and money for apprenticeship, for all kinds of jobs we have inside Handtmann. And of course, as I mentioned, company students, where we really want to give them the opportunity to learn the casting business from scratch.
How come Handtmann, with a double turnaround per capita and company Grob, similar figures, key figures, all speak that warmly about the apprenticeship program? There is a key here. First of all, family businesses, and second, both of you speak pretty much about how to recruit people from being apprentices. That is very interesting. 2 data points, but it's very easy to draw a line here that, okay, be family owned, have a very good recruiting with 16 years old that are looking at TikTok, and just make them into the foundry, get them stuck, get them fascinated, and then the rest is a little bit time and money. Is it that easy?
No, not really that easy. But
I'm just provoking you, Andreas. I'm sorry.
But I think what makes Handtmann special as well is that the family takes over the social responsibility for the employees and also for the future of the company. So they spend a lot for the development of the people here. They look for long-term relationships here. So that's very special. And of course, if they have this long view in the future, they also want to spend to develop their own people, also with the apprenticeship and so on.
A beautiful ending, I would say. And if I was 25 years younger, I'd probably learn German and try to apply for a job at Handtmann. It's been great having you here, Andreas. We can talk for hours and hours. I know that you are a busy guy, but thank you very much for being at the podcast. Highly appreciated by me and Fabian, and I bet we will see it on the ratings and the figures on the statistics when we release this episode as well. So, and then good luck with everything. You seem to have a full plate ahead of you.
We have that, yeah. So thank you very much from my side. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for the insights. And for you listening or viewing this podcast, don't forget to subscribe. And then we see us in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Sayonara.
Bye-bye.